What a great match. Let's check it out.
Let's send. Hello and welcome to round 5 here of the Magic the Gathering Community Cup. I'm Brian Dave Marshall. I'm joined by Matt Tabak, and we are watching Robert Schuster of the Wizards of the Coast team versus Meghan Wolff of the Community team. Meghan, of course, from Magic the Amateuring.
She is one half of the team that brings us Magic the Amateuring. But, you know, as I've said, they've been playing like pros so far. Meghan's did very well in the stipulation draft, and we'll see what kind of a deck she has this time around. Looks like red-green and red-white over on the left for Robert Schuster.
So red-white would imply allies there.
Red-white does have a very strong ally sub-theme. Of course, we're going to be looking for rally cards.
That's a Valakut Predator in play. Valakut Predator is a 3-drop with landfall. It's a 2/2, and it gets +2/+2 every time you make your land drop.
So hopefully Robert will see more lands. That's definitely an efficient attacker, 4/4 on the next turn. And possibly more, like we saw Evolving Wilds. There's definitely ways to get more than one land onto the battlefield.
Theoretically, you could open a fetch land.
That is true.
Although I think we would have heard about it by now.
There would have been some whooping and screaming from the player area, and there was not. So,
I mean, there was a Hallowed Fountain that was open.
oh, I heard the whooping there. So it looks like Void Attendant has entered the battlefield over on Meghan's side.
What does Void Attendant do?
Void Attendant is a 2G 2/3. It's devoid, so it's colorless. So 1G, put a card an opponent owns from exile into that player's graveyard. So there's that processor that we talked about. If you do that, you get to put a Scion, Eldrazi Scion creature token onto the battlefield. So if Meghan can find a way to exile cards of Robert's, she can then process those into Scions.
So that's a core Blade Whirl in play for Robert Schuster. That's an ally. It's a 2/2. Whenever it or another ally enters the battlefield under your control, creatures you control gain first strike until end of turn. So that didn't help get the Predator through without a landfall trigger as well.
Yeah, unfortunately, without that land, Robert had to keep his 2/2 creature back at home. Meghan now looking good with 4 lands.
All right.
That's
a Chasm Guide.
Oh, okay, I was trying to get a look at what Meghan
Chasm
had
Guide
played
is
there.
a 3/2 Goblin Scout ally, and whenever it enters or another ally enters the battlefield, creatures you control gain haste until end of turn. That's a rally ability.
This is going to make Meghan's deck take on an aggressive tilt if she can find more allies.
Right now, it's just making the Chasm Guide tilt
Yeah.
into the red zone, and I think she's happy to trade it for either of these creatures.
But Robert's going to let that in, absorb the 3, go to 17. Now, Robert did not have a land drop last time. Let's see. It doesn't look like he drew one this turn either. So,
yes, the trouble with landfall sometimes.
Yeah. Stuck on 3, Robert's going to attack. So this is an interesting play. Obviously signaling something in hand. We'll see what Meghan decides to do with that information.
And this could be, you have to think about Gideon's Reproach here.
Yeah. A lot of combat tricks that Robert could have been holding. Meghan not buying it. We'll just go to 16.
Curious if there's something like maybe an outnumber in hand for Robert. Maybe like
yeah, that could be interesting. Outnumber is an instant. It's just 1 red, and it deals damage equal to the number of creatures you control. That's to a creature. So effectively shock right now, but it can get much more efficient.
A very Skrettish card. Well, it sounds like we're going to see. Oh, look, there's Gideon's Reproach.
Gideon's Reproach.
So that card was there. It works on both sides of the red zone, attacking
Absolutely.
or blocking. So, sort of like a Celestial Flare kind of effect, but you get to target it and deal 4 damage.
Yeah, one of White's specialties, dealing damage to attacking or blocking creatures.
And that one's a lot harder to hide. 2 mana, your opponent's going to have 2 mana up a lot of times. Sometimes because they're mana screwed.
Right. So we see Meghan up to 5 lands now. Sitting on 12 life.
Chasm Guide keeps doing its thing.
Chasm Guide does its thing. Probably not an ally we're going to see here.
So good read.
But you never know.
No, sometimes you actually do want that's the Kozilek Sentinel.
Okay. Just because it has haste certainly doesn't mean you want to attack with it.
Yeah. Right. But
So-
that's an Eldrazi drone, so it's a 1/4.
Yeah, fine blocking creature in this situation.
So that's an ally there. That's Kozilek. That's a scout. So it's a 1-drop. I saw a lot of people really debating this card. It's done some work in the drafts that we've seen so far in the format, but unclear where its place is in sealed.
Yeah, Battle for Zendikar Limited is a very mana-hungry format, so the ability to spend 5 mana to give your creatures +1/+1 is an interesting one. Sometimes it's very powerful. It can, turn games around, but it is, like I said, mana-hungry. So,
Speaking of mana hungry, Meghan Wolff gets to play Natural Connection as an instant at the end of the turn to go search up another land.
okay.
And so she gets up to 6 at the end of Robert's turn, untaps, and is possibly going to be as high as 7 this turn. There you see her 7th land. She gets in with the Chasm Guide, sends it into a board full of creatures here. Okay, and it's time for the Predator to trade with it.
Now, I think I just saw in Megan's hand
Is that Broker of Arms?
Breaker of Armies.
Breaker of Armies.
Yeah. I
Oh,
think
that's
I
not
saw
what she
Breaker of
played, though.
Armies. Yeah, no, Breaker of Army costs 8. I think that might have been Is it the Shatter Skull?
It's Shatter Skull Recruit.
It is,
It's
okay.
3 RR for a 4/4 with Menace. So that's going to be a difficult card for Robert to deal with.
Right, so some
with
really-
his 2 power and his 1 power creatures, and not enough mana to pump them at all. Now, there's his 4th land, but taps 4. Oh, and there's his Akum Firebird.
Okay, we've seen the Firebird a couple times. 3/3 flying.
Haste.
Could attack and does.
Yeah, gets Meghan
Drop
down to
Dagon
9.
down to 9. Now, we did see a Breaker of Armies in Megan's hand. It costs 8, so she's going to need 1 more mana.
A Breaker of Armies, that's everything has to block it, right? It's like a
Yeah.
built-in lure.
It does have that lure effect where any creature that can block it has to, and it's 10/8 to boot.
That's
So
gross.
that becomes the large creature on the battlefield.
I thought it was interesting when Tim was talking to Megan during deck construction. She talked about having multiple 8-drops in her deck.
Yeah, and she spoke of it almost as a liability, which is really easy to do, because if you're not used to formats that are a little slowed down like Battle for Zendikar is, 8
Well,
can be...
you're taught that that's bad.
Yeah, I mean, she's not wrong. 8 is an intimidating number.
You don't even unless you're Luis Scott Vargas, you don't even want to play with 7 drops.
and I'm certainly no Luis Scott Vargas. But we're going to see in situations like this game is going a little bit longer. Part of that, the mana problems that Schuster has been having. But Megan's probably going to get an opportunity to drop the Breaker of Armies down. We'll see how the game unfolds. Robert at 7 life with about 800 cards in hand. So he's got options. He finds another plane.
Stone Fury took down his Akum Firebird. There.
Right. Now that Firebird might come back, but it's a landfall trigger.
Well, the landfall, it's 6 mana to activate off landfall. So he's going to need to have another landfall for him very soon if he wants to do that.
It does come back to the battlefield, which is good.
Yeah, no, that's I think super exciting card, and really the kind of thing you want in sealed. Right?
Oh, absolutely.
You're going to grind on, and you're just going to be like, okay, I'll trade, I'll do this, I'll bring it back. Oh, there's another Stone Fury.
Okay,
Takes
so
down the Menace creature.
Stone Fury's flying, creatures dying. Let's see if Megan finds that 8th land.
It looks like she did. There it is.
I'm not sure what else she has in hand. But she's counting it out. Okay, here's 3.
She's biding her time here on that breaker.
She might be choosing a more conservative line.
Oh, well, she's got her Valakut Invoker, and that means that she's got something really exciting to do with her 8 mana.
And a Nettle Drone.
Yeah, and then a Nettle Drone.
So probably wisely, Meghan choosing to deploy 2 creatures here. Even though Breaker of Armies is large and in charge, just gives her a little bit more of a presence.
And gets to attack with her 2/4.
And with 8 lands on the battlefield, that Invoker is an immediate threat, especially with Robert at a precarious 7 life.
5 life now.
Oh, excuse me, 5 life. 5 after the attack, right.
Yeah, she can just like actually sit back past the turn.
Right.
Activate.
With Nettle Drone.
Try to not die.
Yeah.
And then activate again.
Nettle Drone and the Invoker can team up to take Robert out in 2 turns with no attacking required. So,
yeah, I don't even think I was accounting for the Nettle Drone there. Three, 1, tap to deal 1 damage to an opponent. And then whenever you cast a color spell, you can untap it.
yep. So Robert with a fistful of cards, but time is running out. Slowly. Time is running out slowly. Very
Robert's
slowly.
like, how do I not die here? Rolling Thunder, we know, will not be the solution.
Rolling Thunder does not get him out of this.
Though it does give him a little bit. It does give him a chance to stay alive. He could kill the...
Rolling Thunder and a land will take out the Invoker and the Drone.
Right.
All right, Robert seems to have decided on a course of action.
It looks like he's going to kill the Nettle Drone with Boiling Earth.
Oh, that was Boiling Earth. Okay. 1 damage to each creature that Meghan controls. Another really good spell with Awaken. Unfortunately, that's a few land away.
So does he have a way to finish off the Invoker?
There was the attack. Remember, 1 damage has been dealt to all of Meghan's creatures, but Meghan very aware of that. So I think she'll watch that attack.
Yeah.
Pass by, go down to 7. Untap. And we are
I think
coming.
you still play the Breaker of Armies here.
Yeah, not sure what Meghan drew.
Well, maybe she's worried about turn against.
That's a fascinating
Right?
point.
She's like, I don't want to play this, and then have you turn it against me and like make my entire team block it.
That's true.
That's about the best use for turn against, isn't it?
It's better than the whole blocking. Yeah, Meghan. That's a very fascinating point. If Meghan puts too large of a threat on the table, that does have to be in her consideration.
So right now she could just pass, activate the Invoker, untap, activate the Invoker. And in fact, she can also attack and do that. So chump block the Invoker, take 1.
So Schuster's
From
at
the Sentinel.
4. That Invoker is online.
I think she's going to go for
Meghan
the
is-
Breaker of Armies. Yep. Here it comes. She's like, I will break you.
Well, she will break or be broken. Because if Robert...
Does Robert Schuster have turn? But again, wisely, she attacked with her creatures. So she can't get completely blown out here by a Breaker of... Well, like she would just die. She would just die
She
then.
could get about as largely blown
yeah,
out
that's
as one
about as
could
big
get.
a blowout as it is, yes. But it doesn't look like turn against.
As in you'd have a 10-8 crawling up your neck. But
Yeah.
that's all right. All right.
So that looked like a sheer drop. Took down the Invoker.
All right. So Robert has to block the Breaker of Armies. If for some reason he did not want to block
illegal
the 10-8.
block, illegal block.
Yeah.
All right.
So Breaker of Armies serving the role of as the Abyss here, just eating one of Robert's creatures every turn. We could be seeing the end here. Let's
Oran
see
Reef Invoker there.
what Robert has drawn. Oh, Oran Reef Invoker, of course, another big threat. And yeah, Robert finally succumbs and scoops him up. And it is 1-0 in favor of Meghan Wolff and Team Community.
Meghan Wolff, who's just been dominating Limited here. You know, she
Yeah.
I think she like falsely built up the hopes of the Wizards team. I think maybe she was doing some mind games.
Meghan was clearly underselling herself.
Yeah.
In interviews beforehand.
Yeah, she's like, oh, yeah, you know, we're really thankful that the Legacy Cube's going to be a stipulation
Yeah.
draft, so we can blame that on
Right.
why our decks are going to be so terrible.
We haven't played a lot of Legacy Cube.
Yeah.
This is kind of new. Battle for Zendikar is obviously new. We'll grant her that. But no, she's just crushing it. Just crushing it.
Yeah, you know, her and Maria went combined 5-1
Wow.
in stipulation
That is
draft.
impressive.
Not sure where they're at so far. A couple of game scores, just to give you an update on what's going on the rest of the floor. Worth Wolpert has defeated Jimmy Wong.
Okay.
Kenji has it was 2-0, by the way. Kenji has won his match 2-0 over Turian. So and then Sam Stoddard has defeated Joel Larson
Okay.
2-0.
So we have a couple wins on each side
Sam
there.
Stoddard right now, I can tell you exactly what he's thinking. I'm getting a psychic impression.
Okay.
He's like, still got it.
Still got it.
That's what he's thinking. He's 5-0 today, by the way.
Is he really?
Yeah.
That's a good story. We'll follow that one. See how he continues his Community Cup
Yeah.
performance. 5-0 is a good start, though.
Maybe not as heralded as some of the other, pro players at Wizards. Because, I mean, Sam was someone who played pretty competitively, played pretty competitive Magic before coming to Wizards of the Coast.
Yeah, I think he was a fixture in the kind of Midwest, maybe Ohio Valley, PTQ, and he's seen some Pro Tours for sure. So he's obviously a great Magic mind. He's behind a lot of the limited formats and a lot of the sets that we put out. He's one of our core developers, and yeah, very talented. So
Yeah, 5-0. Just took down a Pro Tour champion.
that's not something you do every day.
Unless you beat Mike every day. If you beat Mike Turian every day, if that's part of your job, then you could say you do it every day.
Oh, it's true. You're more likely to be able to do that at Wizards than in most places. That's true. So you can't swing a dead Eldrazi without hitting a Pro Tour champion or Hall of Famer. So we're getting shuffled up for game 2. Robert Schuster there on your left side of your screen. Meghan Wolff over on the right. Meghan up
Robert's
there.
deck looked like if he had maybe a little bit better distribution of land and spells there, he might have been able to put up more of a fight. Because that game actually, he had Meghan down under 10, and didn't really do anything all game.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I'm
he was-
really curious to see what happens when he gets enough gas to drive the car.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see. Some of that, I think, was Meghan understanding that she wasn't in too much danger. I tell you, Robert Schuster's deck is really just a classic love story of a deck. If I may just wax poetic for a moment.
All right, I'm going to give you a
There's-
test. I'm going to give
okay.
you a test.
Oh, boy.
Look
here
at
we
this
go.
page here.
Yeah.
This page here of the Battle for Zendikar guide, and I want you to pick out to me the title here that is the most romantic most romantic comedic of all of these 18 cards.
Okay, so Brian David Marshall has handed me the Battle for Zendikar Player's Guide. I am turned to page 28 and 29, which means absolutely nothing to you folks at home. But I'm looking at blue cards, and I am picking out the most romantic name. I am going to have to go with, well, really, if my own marriage has taught me anything about romance, I'm going to go with Exert Influence.
You are not. Maybe you just might not be a romantic person.
I'm romantic as hell. I don't know what's going on.
You could have even gone with Tide Drifter and had that be redder.
Oh,
Anticipate even.
Oh, Anticipate. That's good.
You are just not good at this.
I don't understand. What is love?
What about Tide Drifter? It's like some romantic
Brian-
comedy with Matthew McConaughey
Brian-
as some like hapless surfer.
Brian, what is love? Brian, don't hurt me. Don't hurt me. No more.
Oh, I'm sorry. You are very romantic.
What is love? Let's take a look at game 2, folks. Come with me now as we bring you into the feature match area.
Coastal Discovery. That could have been.
Is that a metaphor? What
I
is
don't know.
that?
Just, what it is better than Exert Influence.
I guess.
It's a choice for
Don't-
a romantic comedy title.
Do not judge my relationship, Brian. We all find our own way in this world.
So it looks like Meghan is going down to 6 cards here.
I'm sure she's not in love with that.
So there's the 6. Is she going to keep that? Looks like. Yep,
Yeah.
there's the scry.
She'll get to take a look. Of course, if she's missing land, maybe she likes what she's going to
It
draw.
looks like she has at least 3 lands in her opening hand there.
Yeah, the fact that you get to scry 1 after taking a mulligan is very interesting. It's obviously not as good as just having 7 cards, but it does give you a little more control over how your early game is going to play out.
And so Expedition
Expedition Envoy.
Yeah, leads things off. I mean, this is, a classic construct. I mean, it's just a 2/1 for 2. It's Savannah Lions.
Yeah,
but
this-
it happens to have the added mechanical ally text.
It's even better, and this card used to be rare, to give you an idea. Rolling Thunder used to be common, so
Yeah.
maybe that's not the best lens to look through. But some early beats from Robert Schuster.
I'm curious to see, the tension of this card, like in terms of playing it in your deck. Like obviously, it's this like cheap ally. It lets you get out of the gates pretty early with the deck, but it does just not fight favorably against Scions.
That's true, and we spoke about a little bit about that earlier. How there's a real pressure on 1 toughness creatures in this environment, with Scions being so common. So we have Meghan's first play.
Is that a McKindy Slidewinder? Yeah, Sliderunner from. Yeah, it was. Sorry, just still trying to. And that's a Tajaru Stalwart.
Oh, okay.
On Meghan's side. What does that card do?
Okay, Tajuru Stalwart is a 2G for a 0/1. Not the best deal, but alone. But it does have Converge. It enters the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter on it for each color of mana spent to cast it. So that's the Converge we talked about.
Sweet.
So obviously you're locked into green, but it hits 2 generic mana. So if Meghan filled that with red, so it gets 2 counters.
They made it into a 2/3. Yeah.
If you're playing 3 colors, if you can get 3 colors of mana to cast it, it's going to be a 3/4 for 3. So worth noting on those Converge cards, you are kind of limited by the mana cost you're paying. So Tajuru Stalwart, now dead, but it does have a mana cost of 2 generic and a green. So you can only pay a max of 3 mana there.
Right, it's never going to be bigger than a 3/4.
Yeah. Now, there are some tricks to get around that if for some reason your spells cost more mana to cast, or if you're casting it for some sort of alternative cost, then it looks at whatever mana you actually paid. So there's some tricks. But generally speaking, the Stalwart's going to top out at 3/4. All right, so we talked about Robert kind of dinking and dunking here, and Meghan's already down to 13.
Wow, they see Burning Earth. Is that what we call that card? Boiling Earth. Takes down the. That's a sweet card actually when you think about taking down someone who's building up with their Eldrazi Scions.
Yeah, 1 damage to each creature your opponent's control. That's going to take care of a lot of Scions in early
Kozilek's
game.
Channeler.
There's Kozilek's Channeler again. Big 4/5 body is going to get away and get in the way of some of Robert's aggression.
Does he have Stone Fury?
Stone Fury would be nice here.
There's a 6th land. Attacks with his 2 creatures.
Robert, no fear, just sending it in. Telegraphing something in hand.
Well, we've already seen Gideon's Reproach from him.
Oh, sure. Meghan at 8 life can't afford to not block.
Well, there's
so,
Gideon's
yeah.
Reproach. And the McKindy slide runner there, that has trample, so he's going to get in for his 2 damage no matter what there. He gets to remove that creature, get in for 2, and then plays.
Now, Matt, I can't quite see the attacking creatures. Was there a first strike involved there, possibly? Or, my apologies, folks. Well, it matters not, as Meghan decides to pack it in at 3 life. So, sorry, we kind of lost track of the cards there for a moment. We'll get on top of that as the players shuffle up.
Channeler's a 4/4, buddy.
Channeler's a 4/4. Oh, I thought Chandler was a 4/5.
That may have been true at some point.
Could I sell you on it was 4/5 last time I saw it?
You absolutely could, from the conviction you seem to have that it was.
So certainly an excellent play there by Robert Schuster in retrospect.
Yeah, he gets to kill that with the reproach and still trample over.
Right, even though the creature was blocked,
the
trample lets you assign that damage right to your opponent. So an excellent play by Schuster there.
And he did have, by the way, Stone Fury in hand too.
Oh, did he? Okay.
Yeah, so he actually had the next even bigger creature covered because he was going to be able to do 6 or even 7 to the next creature that Meghan played.
Stone Fury just gets better with the number of lands you have. So 4/4, you don't say.
A couple more wins for the Wizards team. Ali Medwin and Melissa DeTora both won 2-0 in their matches. Joining Worth and Sam Stoddard in their wins this round. So at least 4 wins so far for the Wizards team.
Wizards making a bid to enter halftime, as it were, to end day 1 with the lead.
I mean, I think coming into this with a 12-point deficit, they'd be pretty happy coming out of it with a tie going into another constructed format.
Absolutely.
So, actually, wow.
They have grabbed the lead. It is.
Wow.
We're up by. I'm sorry.
Oh!
We. Surely, can we put up that scoreboard again? So 57-54, Team WotC, Team Wizards of the Coast, and Brian David Marshall, Matt Tabak here in the booth, your neutral commentators. Surely not rooting for anyone except you, the viewer.
I feel like
at home.
I have to be rooting for community now, just to balance.
Whatever.
Make this coverage fair and balanced.
Yeah, whatever. I'm rooting for the people at home. That's who I'm here for.
People at home like Greg Leeds at home.
Oh, God, Mr. Leeds, another fine viewer. I'd like to certainly bid welcome to all of my bosses and bosses' that might be watching us right now. We hope that you are having a lot of fun.
So Aaron Forsyth, speaking of your bosses, he got on the board this round.
Aaron Forsyth with a win.
Yeah, so he did not get off to a good start, but is now on the board. He picked up a win against Wedge, who because we were so adherent to the theme, did not have quite the deck to get through the get through the first 3 rounds of stipulation draft in good shape. So he's off to a pretty rough start.
Brian David Marshall's got jokes, everybody. We talked about the event at PAX, the Penny Arcade Expo, a few weeks ago, which was kind of the kickoff for Battle for Zendikar. Aaron Forsyth, in a grand spell-slinging event, went 11-0 against the public in that event, crushing dreams mercilessly. It's nice to see him get on the board here against some stiffer competition.
This looks like Meghan is kept and Robert's going to 6.
That's what it looks like.
Any sense of how the archetypes of this format mulligan? In other words, if you're one of the big Eldrazi decks, are those is it more important to mulligan in those? I mean, are the ally decks a little more robust? What have you seen?
So there are certainly strategies that are a little more aggressive than others, where an early start is really important. We saw that with the black-red deck, focusing on the colorless.
I mean, we've seen two or three 1-drops in Robert Schuster.
Yeah, the allies in particular, the white-red version, very strong in the early game. So you really want to make sure you have enough to get started.
Okay. Robert's keeping.
So you might see some more aggressive mulliganing in those types of decks, just to make sure that you don't start out hopelessly behind.
All right. Forest for Meghan.
Forest for Meghan. Mountain for Schuster.
But there's a 2-drop.
Meghan's not letting turn 2
no.
go by without an opportunity to cast a spell. Looks like Kozilek
It's
Sentinel.
Kozilek Sentinels. The same 2-drop we've seen just about every time from the red players.
You'd think I'd know that art by now. So
no turn 2 play from Schuster, who is suddenly.
and Meghan has a bit of tempo here.
There goes the Tajuru Stalwart, and there it's a
saw
2/3.
2 colors, red and green, so it's going to get 2 counters. Schuster on the board here in turn 3.
That's the Valakut's Predator. That's his Valakut Predator, actually.
2/2. Now that has the landfall ability that can, if Schuster drops a land under his control, if it enters the battlefield, could attack as a 4/4.
And there are ways to put lands into play at instant speed.
There absolutely are.
Which is super exciting.
That's certainly something to keep an eye on.
Natural Connection is going to be a fun little combat trick.
Yeah, usually you don't see that effect at instant speed, so definitely something to be aware of, especially if you're opposing landfall
There's a
triggers.
Life Spring Druid. Is that that card's name? I think. Yeah. All right, I've memorized one. Woohoo!
We got this.
That's 2/1, and it lets Meghan tap it for any color of mana. So she is ramping away. There's a 4th land. Landfall trigger from Robert Schuster. That's a 4/4. There is the Ondu Champion. That's an ally.
So Meghan with kind of an army of 2-power creatures here, but
And then his, that gives trample to the.
Looks like she's going to have access to 6 mana.
At least. All right, she's using 5 of it. That's an.
Let's take a look at what Meghan played just there as we try to get a look.
It's a Tajuru Warcaller.
Oh, so it is. Tajuru Warcaller, now it's a 2/1 for 5.
Is it?
Is that a Tajuru Warcaller?
That's what came up on the graphic, but I don't know if that was the card that got played.
I don't believe it is.
That was a Territorial Bailoff.
Oh, there it is. Okay.
That's actually a.
That is a
It's
Territorial
a card that has
Bailoff.
existed before. That was in the original Zendikar, I believe.
Yes. 4/4 for 5 with landfall gets +2/+2.
We're getting a gummy little board here.
Yep.
Which blighted land is that? That's a blighted steppe.
Population.
So that's kind of interesting. It's like that's like a land that just has a built-in congregate.
Blighted Steppe, there's a Blighted Cycle. So each of these tap for a colorless mana, and then you can sacrifice it and pay some mana, in this case 3 white, tap, sacrifice Blighted Steppe. You gain 2 life for each creature you control. And there's a cycle of these. The white one mirrors Congregate, as Brian said.
The black one's a Diabolic Edict for 5 mana, which
Yeah.
is pretty exciting.
Yeah, this it's very, very good utility out of your lands. The red one basically does a shock, 2 damage to target creature or player. The blue one draws you 2 cards. And the green one lets you search your library for up to 2 basic land cards and put them onto the battlefield tapped, ramping up your mana production and also thinning out your deck.
And we saw a combat trick flash by there.
So I gotta tell you, Brian, this is kind of fun. We are discovering the battle for Zendikar.
That was a Smite the Monstrous.
Oh, okay.
Just I'm going to see what you're going to block with, and then I'll smite. There's Kozilek's Channeler.
Kozilek's Channeler. The 4/4 Kozilek's Channeler. Not that 4/5 version you may have heard about.
This event brought to you by the number 4.
Yeah.
It looks like a Stone Fury in hand.
So again, kind of the story of this match, Robert having problems finding lands.
No, he's okay, I think, here.
Is he?
He's just got them all stacked up.
Oh, okay.
He's got at least 5. But he's got to get through this sort of mounting wall of creatures. There's a 1/4. There's a 4/4.
Yeah, I mean,
there's a 2/3.
With the landfall ability, you really want to see one. He fooled me there by stacking up his lands, but you really want to see those drops every turn to be able to maintain that aggression. But Meghan's put up quite a team on her side.
You know, Robert would love a flyer here, some sort of evasion of any kind. Failing that, a Rolling Thunder.
Rolling Thunder, always a welcome addition.
He's thinking about it. Eventually just sends in the Undo Champion.
All right, Robert, not taking his foot off the gas for certain.
He's asking Meghan, do you want to take 4 here,
Yeah.
or do you want to trade, or am I setting you up with a Gideon's Reproach or some other
Right.
removal spell?
Right. I mean, Ondu's a sizable attacker. He's 4/3. So Meghan's going to go for the double block.
But this gives Robert a chance, if he has a Gideon's Reproach, to get a 2-for-1 here.
He is thinking about it. Not sure what he has in his hand. All right, here we go. 5 mana. I believe that was Royal's Retribution.
Yeah, so Royal's Retribution deals 5 damage divided as you choose among any number of target attacking or blocking creatures. So they just want you to be terrified of 5 untapped mana in this format.
Zendikar is a dangerous plane. There's Rolling Thunder. There's Royal's Retribution. If you're going to attack, you better be sure.
So there is a giant monster for...
I think that's Ruin Processor. It is Ruin Processor.
What does that card do?
So it's 7 mana, 7/8. When you cast it, if you can process a card, and I don't believe Schuster had any cards in exile, you can actually gain 5 life off of it by processing one of your
Oh,
opponent's
Palaka
cards.
Worm.
Sure. But this time I'm remembering correctly, a little bit of extra toughness. It is a 7/8.
That's a lot of extra toughness.
So Ruin Processor kind of runs the yard now.
I believe that's Chasm Guide. That's 3/2. Whenever it enters or another ally enters the battlefield under your control, creatures gain haste.
Yeah, it's the rally ability that adds haste.
But he's like, you know
So-
what? Let's not be hasty here.
Right.
Let's hang out.
7/8 Ruin
Let's
Processor
hang out
across
on
the way. Will
Let's hang out on the Blighted Steppe and gain some life a
Right.
little later.
Oh, look, a 7/8 creature. I'll chill here. We're good. Now we'll see how aggressive Meghan wants to be here. She certainly has the size advantage. She is at a life disadvantage, though, so we'll see what she's thinking.
Yeah, I mean, if she attacks here with the Rune Processor, I mean, Robert's clearly just going to take it.
Yeah, Robert Schuster right now is, I believe, 1 mana off of that step being active. Oh, no, I'm sorry. He does have exactly enough he needs. If he untaps.
So, yep, here comes the Rune Processor.
So it's nice when you're entering these combat situations. You know, Robert thinks, I've probably got 6 to 8 life in the bank.
Except 8 mana
Oh, well,
for a Breaker of Armies.
Breaker of Armies has shown up. Breaker of Armies will put a downer on any
boy.
picnic Schuster was attempting to throw with his congregation of creatures.
So he's like, okay, yeah, landfall. Uh-huh.
The 7/8 was one thing. It got through. The 10/8.
So Meghan was worried about playing, all these expensive creatures, but, she's dropped the 7-drop. She's followed it up with an 8-drop, and suddenly she's in control here. Weird how that works.
Yeah, I mean, if players remember...
Playing creatures bigger than your opponent's entire team.
And Battle for Zendikar is all about that, just like the original Zendikar was, especially Rise of the Eldrazi.
Yeah, this is very on theme here, right? This is the allies against the Eldrazi.
It really is. We are living the Battle for Zendikar live in front of us. But if you give those Eldrazi decks, or decks featuring the large Eldrazi, time to set up and time to develop their mana base, all of a sudden these giant monsters start hitting out of nowhere. And they are tough to deal with.
And now Robert Schuster, he can't even sit back here.
No, because all of his creatures are going to be forced to block the Breaker of Armies if nothing else changes. That not only lets all of Meghan's other creatures get through unscathed, but it kind of devastates Robert's team, right? 10-8 is enough to take out anything Robert has put down. So we'll see a couple cards in Robert's hand.
By the way, you see Wizards now 6 full points up ahead of the community team. 60-54.
So two matches up. Do you know how many matches are still going? Well, obviously, we're watching this one.
Sounds like it should be 2 matches outstanding.
So there's this and one other match to go?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. So things are looking pretty good for Meghan here, I must say. So we could be headed...
Oh, it's 60-57.
We could be headed toward a tie. So is this now the only match we have left? All right, this is it. So
are there tiebreaker contingencies in place? I wonder.
Oh, we'll definitely make something up tomorrow. I'm sure the good folks.
Playoff. It's like the Player of the Year. They actually have to come to the next Pro Tour.
Well, we've
and
got
do a playoff there.
Well, that's good as long as we can go commentate it. We've got these cameras, and we have what I would describe as a dance floor available next to the drafting area. So I think you see where this is headed.
I think this heavily favors the community team.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen some of the Wizards people dance, if that's what you're getting at.
This is the last match.
But don't sleep on Aaron Forsythe. That man's got moves.
All right.
So things are looking pretty good for Meghan here.
Yeah, Schuster's just been kind of trying to line up how exactly he's going to figure something out here, what possible attack he can make. I think he just has to sort of send the squad in.
Yeah, I mean...
But then he's going to die on the crack back. Does he have another creature to play post-combat?
So there's some math to do here. He's got the step. No, but he's foregoing that. Okay,
so he's got a sheer drop to take down the Ruin Processor.
Right, Ruin Processor down. That takes a lot of heat off.
So now maybe he's looking at the fact he's like, okay, well, I can just trade these creatures for your Breaker of Armies.
It's possible the plan just might be large chump block, take the hit, live to fight another day, and maybe we can kind of reset this game if we can get Breaker of Armies off the table. That might be what he's thinking. Well, Meghan untaps, up 12-10.
Plays a Core Castigator.
Crucial turn here. Core Castigator adds another 3 power to
but
the
only
team.
1 more point of toughness.
Only 1 more point of toughness. Breaker of Armies not going to have too much of a problem squishing it, but
he wants to make sure it dies.
Yeah, that's the important thing for Robert right now.
He's like, I can actually possibly recover if I get to untap, but that has to involve Breaker of Armies dying.
Robert wastes no time. That creature, the top creature on your screen on Meghan's side, Breaker of Armies, 10-8. All of Robert's creatures must block it and do. So
he just
team
munches
down.
the whole team.
Now, Robert did not have the opportunity to get that blighted step off before all his creatures went away. He had to do it, but that's 8 life down the tubes. He's down to 4. He's now facing down 2 creatures. We got a 4/4 Kozilek's Channeler, the 2/3.
Natural Connection's going to go get another land out of Meghan's deck here at the end of the turn. But Robert's just passed the turn.
Yeah, I believe Robert just passed. He untapped and passed.
Does he understand that he should have played something there?
I'm not sure. He's holding something. It could be land.
He is at 4. So he can take a hit. Basically, he can just take a hit.
So here we are. Meghan and the community team
From the
playing
stalwart.
for the tie. You know the attack is coming. Let's see what we got. He's tapping lands.
Oh, okay.
All
there
right.
it is. It's Gideon's Reproach.
Gideon's
so he's going to fall to 2.
All right. We've got a 2-3 on Meghan's side of the battlefield. Robert Schuster is at 2 life. Meghan passes. This is Robert's opportunity. Can he stabilize?
I gotta say, like, there's a little bit of a moral victory in getting this many extra turns after the breaker of armies.
Yeah, fighting through a 10-8, crashing through your team is good work.
Okay, so that looks.
And that was it. Yeah, Robert cast that spell with Awaken, but unfortunately he had to tap out to do it. He was short 1 land. He could have left an untapped land creature, but he didn't have it. And Meghan Wolff crashes in to take this match 2-1.
So that's a tie now.
And ladies and gentlemen, that brings the community total to 60.
Yeah.
Wizards total is also 60. Welcome back to the booth. I'm Matt Tabak. He's Brian David Marshall. I'm learning from you. This is awesome. He's Marshall Sutcliffe, and I'm new. No. And folks, we have a tie. It is 60 points apiece.
Yeah, that's insane.
After a day of battling.
Almost a full day of battling.
Almost a full day of battling.
That's kind of insane. I think are we gonna get an interview here? Or we're checking.
We might get an interview.
We might get an interview.
They probably need a few minutes to cool down after that battle.
Yeah,
I know I do. That was really exciting. That was good.
Absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, we saw definitely a good picture of Battle for Zendikar limited
Which
there.
side, having played some with this,
yeah,
which side of that do you generally want to be on? Like, realistically, if you're going to play limited, do you want to be on the ally side, which is going to be fast, possibly a little more consistent, or do you want to be on that big, powerful Eldrazi side?
I've seen both sides. Both sides are viable. I've seen both sides do really well. I would advise people playing Battle for Zendikar Sealed, be prepared for the late game, because it comes faster than you realize, and with the amount of ramp, with the amount of just large threats that are sitting around the 6 to 10 mana range, there are some heavy hitters that you sometimes don't see in sealed deck. So
yeah, and again, you can also be out an ally deck and have a big
absolutely
Eldrazi.
Just because you're the ally doesn't mean anything.
It does sound like we have Meghan Wolff ready to tell us about how she has slow rolled her limited dominance. She sort of set us up saying like that. She's like, I don't think we're going to do that great in limited here this weekend.
Yeah, no.
Likely story, Meghan. Likely story.
Bring it.
She's a 5-0. All right, let's go down to the floor and hear from her.
I'm here in the feature match area with Meghan Wolff. Now, Meghan, breaking some armies there, getting it done. Yes. It looks like the Battle for Zendikar has been a little bit rougher on the community team than the stipulation draft was, but you're still doing pretty well, and the scores are currently entirely tied, so everything's still to play for.
All right, so we've lost a little bit of ground, is what you're telling me.
Oh, yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. But do you know what? We had some to lose, so that was a sick, covert burn that I was going for. Nailed it.
Yeah. Winning, so it doesn't matter if we lose a little bit, because we're still not losing.
Exactly, because we're still not losing. Yeah, thank you.
We got there. We figured it out. With one round left to go, your deck looks sweet. It seems like you've got acceleration and you've got cool things to accelerate into.
That's pretty much what we're going for, especially that game 3 with my opening hand. I think I had a couple of lands, a little bit of ramp, and then some giant dudes. And I knew that his deck going into it was very aggressive. He kind of ran me over in game 2. So I was like, do you know what? I need to live. I need to be able to ramp out these huge breaker of armies and the other guy, and we're gonna be okay.
Yeah, it turns out that as much as there's some pretty strong damage-based removal for attackers, you've got Gideon's Reproach and so on, those Eldrazi are just huge.
Yeah, they're pretty absurd.
I mean, Joel Larson kind of said it best on the turn where Breaker of Armies just casually traded for 4 creatures. Like, that was a pretty good turn. We don't mind if Eldrazi died that way.
No, we certainly don't. It's like, do you know what? He's really sad. He was having a great time out there on the battlefield, mopping up armies. But at the end of the day, he was doing it all in service of the Eldrazi, and sometimes they gotta die.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's not just about attacking your opponent, it's about decimating them by killing all of their creatures as well.
Exactly. It's really about hammering home the fact that you're winning. It's just being like, hey, and by the way, yeah. I'm winning right now.
The exclamation point on an otherwise already impressive attack. Congratulations on that win. We got one more round left on today, and then it's the Iron Root Chef tomorrow. Are you excited?
Oh my goodness, I am so excited. I can't even express how excited I am. it's off the charts. If there was a chart for excitement, my line would be somewhere above that.
Good to know. We're excited about tomorrow, but we got one round left today. We're going to head back to the booth here at the Community Cup.
Thanks, Tim. Thanks, Megan.
So Meghan playing it cool, not showing a lot of emotion. One round to go here today, and we're tied.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. This is as close a Community Cup day one as I remember seeing in a while.
Yeah,
Usually it feels like someone pulls away pretty early. Maybe there's a huge comeback.
Right. Usually it's day 2 when we really see Wizards of the Coast stumble. And but today it's very, very hard fought. You can see Community got off to a great start, built up a lead. Paper sealed, battle for Zendikar, Wizards storming back.
So 12-point lead for the Community in across 3 rounds of stipulation draft.
Yes.
And Wizards has made that ground up.
Yep.
In just 2 rounds.
Wizards on an even keel right now. Of course, yeah, 1 round to go. So Wizards has shown some dominance in the Battle for Zendikar arena. Some of that we thought we'd see. We'll see how things go here in round 6.
You know what we're going to see right now?
Ooh, what are we going to see right now?
Commercials.
Is it commercials?
It is commercials.
Can I see things to buy?
Yes.